down there, we lost count, but others tell us it was over 100 kids came to the Lord during that time, which is so exciting. We were on cloud 9, it was all great, but we were living amongst kids who had no personal identity at all. They had to queue up for every single meal. They were sitting on concrete blocks outside, waiting for permission to go in and eat, and they had to eat in silence. There was not a single moment of their day that was not structured, where they were told what they could do, when they could do it, how they could do it. And so that was really institutionalized, and we could see that this was not good for the kids.
So we started this process of researching this, finding out, God, what it was so heavy on us, we have to do something about this.
Yeah.
So we just started by researching. We found out that there's 100,000 kids in Thailand in institutions, children's homes, this sort of thing, and that 50% of them, by the time they leave, the boys end up in prison. 60% of the girls end up in prostitution. And that's not just in that's Christian children's homes all over. And we just realised children belong in families.
Yeah. So you thought you were going down there to run a kids program, and God had a completely different... These are your future church planters, man, seriously.
Yeah.
He is working in the places, the most darkest of places. He comes along and he sends you guys, you give what you have. And then what happened as a result of that, I believe you're now you've partnered now with another organisation and are able to affect government policy regarding these children. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've been able to partner with other like-minded people and groups. So together there's been years of lobbying of the government and educating the government. And the Thai government changed their policy from favouring institutional care for all the vulnerable kids to now the policy in Thailand is for children, vulnerable children, to be placed into families.
Actually, the team that we work with wrote that policy.
Oh my goodness. So little Bron and Tim from Dingley are
Still little Tim and Bron.
government policy. It's kids, 100,000 kids in Thailand. That's extraordinary.
At this stage though, it's become policy, but that doesn't mean it's being acted out yet. So the government actually is working with us and giving us an orphanage. When I say us, it's a large group of us. 143 kids from 0 to 7 years old.
Yeah.
And we're now in the process of transitioning all of those children out of the government orphanage into family-based care. And when that's successfully done, which will take a few years, the government has then committed to transition all kids out of orphanages, out of their government orphanages.
Do you know, this is, seriously, that's the call of Deuteronomy on your life, isn't it?
That's it, That's it. The God's heart is for the orphan, the widow, and the foreigner. For us, the orphan is the vulnerable child, the widow is the vulnerable family, and the foreigner is the asylum seeker, the refugees.
And it looks like you're working in all of those spaces now.
So we talked about the orphanages and the transitioning, but we're also working in the area of keeping kids there before that, strengthening families, strengthening these vulnerable families. So,
the idea is if there's too many kids, 100,000 kids in orphanages and children's homes is way too much. So we're attacking it from two ends. One is to stop the flow of kids into orphanages by strengthening the families, taking them on mentoring and education experiences so that they're able to keep their kids at home, and then the government end where we're trying to open the doors to get the kids out.
But really what Jesus is saying is future church planters.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
He is. So you've gone there, God's completely changed it. In a sense, you had all these plans. I remember when after COVID you went back and you weren't too sure where you fitted, and
we had no idea. In fact, to be honest with you all, we thought maybe our time was up. It was time to come back, and we came back. And that was a hard time, that COVID time. And then we just felt, we actually had a prophetic word, and it was really strong. You're going back. And you're going back into a time of fruit. This is your time of fruit. And so we actually went back we managed to get, during COVID, we managed to get a 9-month visa back into Thailand. And we went back there with this whole thought of, what are we here for?
Yeah, we thought we would just go there and have a look and see what God was doing and what doors he'd be opening for us. And in that time, we had that experience. But we also connected with some of the refugee families that we'd been walking with for quite some time. and started finding that not only were they in hiding because the refugees in Thailand quickly become illegal people, and they've got to hide from the government so they're not thrown into the International Detention Centre, which is like a prison. And so we were able to connect with partners there and have the government right to be able to bail refugees out of the International Detention Centre if the detention meant that a child was being separated from their parent or a child had been incarcerated.
Oh
so
my
we could
goodness.
get them out.
Just to explain that, I mean, here it may not make sense, but in Thailand, they didn't sign the United Nations agreement. So even if people, they go to the United Nations and they apply for a refugee status and they get their paperwork that says I'm an asylum seeker, here there's a safety network for them that's recognised, but in Thailand it's not recognised. So as soon as their visas stop, which is normally after 3 months, they're illegal and they're being hunted.
And so they live in hiding. And so now you tell us a story of what that looks like for Bron and Tim in daily life, connecting with these these refugees that you are now bailing out of asylum centres, aren't they? Really?
Yeah. Look, we've had some miraculous stuff happen with the refugees. I'll tell a quick story and then I'll give it to Tim for the latest exciting story. But we've got about 60 families that we look after who are refugees from a Cherrie tribe, which is hill tribes of Vietnam, and they're all religious refugees. And we went to feed them at Christmas time. Someone had donated a lot of money. As we went to feed them, we bought 60 packets of food, like really big bags of food for the 60 families. You watched that?
We saw that.
Seen that? Okay.
Yeah.
And
that's
God
the one
multiplied
where
the food.
Cyrus went across.
Yeah,
He's
that's
now
it,
teaching English. So Cyrus from Wine Press heard that story, and he actually he went over and started teaching those
very people.
That's extraordinary.
It's look, we just want to stop for a moment and thank you guys, Winepress, for all your incredible support, not only supporting us, but by sending over people like Cyrus and Steve and Ange who've been over and continuing to work with us, and Derek and Esther who are over at the moment, and Dani. So many people come to serve with us.
You
We
don't
love it.
send people for 2 weeks. You send them. You seriously send them. You are amazing.
Yeah, we so appreciate that.
You told us a story, just to finish on, you told us a story of a man named Lazarus, and I think it's a really appropriate story, given that this is Resurrection Sunday.
Resurrection Sunday, Lazarus' story. Lazarus' family is one of these refugee families, and in 2013, his brother was a pastor, and they had
In Pakistan,
sorry, and they ran this outreach, and some people converted, and because of that conversion, the whole the religious people there got really upset and were threatened their lives. They were going to be killed.
Yes, so they ended up in...
So they ended up in Thailand.
Yep, you bailed them out.
Well, no, we didn't bail them out because they came and they were on a 3-month visa.
Yeah.
Very quick, they went to the United Nations to do their thing. They got rejected through corruption. They were rejected. They were not able to become refugees. And so they were in hiding, and that was 2013.
Wow.
And they're still in hiding today, 9.5 years later.
So tell us the story.
They've been living in a house, probably about this size, 7 of them, 5 children. There was a father as well, but he died earlier on, a few years ago. And it is, as Australians, we cannot understand. We have no idea of what is happening with these people.
Tell us your
and
day.
So we caught up with them, and then we were trying to, early on, we just started visiting them, and we're like, it was a hopeless situation. And we actually didn't enjoy going there because it's like, I have nothing to give you.
Yeah.
And there is no hope. You can't leave this country. You can't go back home. Your promise of another country has been ripped away from you. You're stuck. Stuck, and there's no thing. And we just dared. It was like, I just felt God was saying to them, there is a way forward. There will be a way forward. And, it's like Joseph. It seems like there's nothing but God.
You told me you started prophesying.
I started prophesying over them, and I actually felt reckless in doing it because it was like giving this false hope to people. It's like, the generations after you will look back, and thank you for the journey you took for them. That started around 2015 when we met them, and we've known them for 8 years, and we walked this journey, and And God just said when we went back in 2021, He said, I want you to work for this family now. And so I just started looking for a way or whatever, and I found this article where this man was working with refugees. Father Kelly found an email address for him. He connected with us. He can't help you. Get on to this guy. He can't help you, but he might know someone. We called this guy Deacon Rudy from the Catholic Church in Canada. He says, I have 10 spaces available. The government allows us to let people in, to apply to come to Canada. I will give your family one of those spaces.
Well, and I believe that's what you did, and then that cost you. You had to put money
$72,000.
Cost you. You had to find that from yourself to put it up.
Yeah.
To invest into a situation which looked totally hopeless.
Totally impossible. We didn't know where to go, but we just kept walking and trying.
And even doing that, there was no guarantee that they were going to get it. That's just the money you put in to put the application in. No guarantee that they would.
Okay, so
fast forward.
Easter week.
Fast
forward
To Monday, last Monday, this very week.
Amen.
Lazarus received an email from the Canadian government telling him it's time to go and get your fingerprints done, your photos taken. As soon as you pass the medical test, you're off to Canada. It's just embarrassing.
There is so much more background to this. There's miracle after miracle after miracle, changing laws in Canada so that they can go.
Amen.
Just phenomenal.
Amen. So God is using two little people from Dingley.
On Tuesday morning, we went to see them, and the man just embraced me like I've never had an embrace, and kissed me and kissed me and kissed me. I'm
like he's never had an embrace from
never
a man.
had so many kisses from a man in all my life.
So
thank you.
This is amazing. Wine Press, thank you. Thank you for loving our friends.
Yes,
we are so privileged to walk alongside of you guys. So privileged. You get to be the hands and feet of Jesus in places we would never get to. And sometimes we get to join you in for a little stints. We are so grateful to be on this journey. That the God we serve, His plan for us, it does not make sense, does it? If He told us up front, we would run. We'd go the opposite direction. But look where you are 15 years later, and now you are affecting how He's using you to change the destiny of people's lives. Thank you. Thank you.
Can I just say that the two elder daughters, we saw the hand of God on their lives early on, and they just inspired us with their faith and their commitment to Christ. And I know they've said it themselves, we have been through this test so that we will see millions of other women and other people's lives broken out of pain and torment so that they will be free as we preach the gospel. I'm telling you, we have released, by doing this, we've not just released a family, we have released preachers that we see so many saved. These girls are phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Thank you. So we're going to, Arthur, you want to come up and we're going to pray for you guys.